Populations and Resources Unit, Lesson 4.1, the South Pacific Island Ecosystem. Activity 3, Evaluating Evidence. Evidence criterion. Samples that represent as much of the whole as possible provide stronger evidence. You will get a set of evidence cards that contain information about each population from the island ecosystem food web. You will annotate the cards on your own and then use the evidence cards to evaluate the cards with a partner. The purpose of this activity is to identify the strongest evidence. Evidence card A, buttongrass. The populations on the island are found throughout the island. The evidence card describes the locations where organisms were counted in order to estimate the population change over time. The card also shows how the population changed over time. This card shows the buttongrass was counted at only one location, and the ecologists concluded that the population was increasing. You will need to decide if one location is enough to represent the whole population. Scientists noted that the parrot population decreasing around 2000. All of the population data they received was from 1950 to 2000, the 50 years before they noticed the parrots decreasing. Students, read and annotate the evidence cards. You will find the evidence cards in the Drive folder for the lesson, posted to Classroom. Evidence gradient. You will now use the evidence gradient to evaluate the island evidence cards. Students, examine 8 evidence cards and place them on the evidence gradient. In earlier examples where we chose the strongest evidence, it was fairly clear which evidence was the strongest. In this case, it may be less clear. Don't be surprised if there is some disagreement. Which cards have samples that best represent the whole population? Evidence cards A and B do not represent enough of the whole to be useful. One collection site is not enough to estimate the population size. Students can eliminate these cards. Evidence cards G and H do not provide any data about these populations. You can eliminate these cards. Evidence cards E and F are the strongest pieces of evidence since they have the most collection sites, 8 sites for sparrowhawks and 10 sites for the Tasmanian devils. These cards should be kept. Evidence cards C and D are not the strongest or the weakest. You can decide if you want to keep this evidence for use in the science seminar, but you should remember that the evidence may not represent the whole population. In the next lesson, you will analyze the evidence you selected today, as well as some new evidence, to try to figure out the main cause of the orange-bellied parrot population size decrease. End of activity.